nobody is missing Brock Boeser more than JT Miller right now. And we saw it last night. Obviously, you have the third period benching, but I wanted to dive in a little bit on these numbers, Harman. JT Miller with and without Brock Boeser, I was just poking through natural stat trick. Because of how much time Boeser's missed, it's 5 games at the time of this recording. We now have a decent sample size of Miller without Boeser and Miller with Boeser. So at 5-on-5, these are all 5-on-5 stats. They've played 123 minutes together, almost 124 minutes, 124 minutes together at 5-on-5. And then without Brock Boeser, JT Miller's played 91 minutes and 46 seconds at 5-on-5. Some of these numbers are going to come during line changes. Like there's going to be seconds where they're not on the ice at the exact same time. But for the most part, we can look at this as a pretty decent sample size of with Brock Boeser and without Brock Boeser. It's pretty remarkable how different it is. When you look at it on a per 60 basis, the easiest way to sum it up is that they create more when Brock Boeser is playing with JT Miller, and they give up way less when Brock Boeser is playing with JT Miller. Per 60, their chance for is 63.43, and the chances against 49.87 together. Without Brock Boeser, that goes to 54.26 chance for. Chances against 56.87 for JT Miller. Again, I'm looking at it on a per 60 basis, but even if you look at counts as well, so the per 60 kind of gives us the helps us contextualize it when they're different sample sizes, obviously, right? But when we look at it in terms of counts, which is just like pure goals against, goals for, with Brock Boeser, JT Miller has 7 goals for, 2 goals against, okay? In less time, without Brock Boeser with him, there are fewer goals, which is fine, less time, right? 5 goals for, there's 7 goals against without Brock Boeser, with JT Miller on the ice at 5-on-5. That is a Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon level jump of how ineffective a player becomes when he's not with this guy. And that's what Brock Boeser is for JT Miller right now. And we talked a lot over the years about Brock Boeser's improvements, but just how much JT Miller struggled without Brock Boeser, really, it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a proud parent right now watching Quads break down analytics and numbers. I feel like I got to give you a vibes take now to compensate. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing it on the ice, and there are moments where the familiarity and the chemistry that JT and Brock have together now that JT doesn't have Brock anymore, it makes a difference. Like one of the things that JT told me about, this is earlier in the California road trip. It was a separate sort of interview around playmaking. Boeser came up in conversation, and JT said, with Brock, I always know where he's going to be on the ice. And when I'm trying to create plays down low, there's such a limited window where you need the perfect timing to set guys up in the slot for scoring chances. That window is like a bang, bang. You either like that guy needs to be in the right spot immediately. And if he's not, the window's going to close. And he's like, Brock, because I've had so many years of playing with him, I know exactly where he's going to be and when he's going to be there. And we're able to like execute those bang, bang plays. That's the difference when it's Lecker-Mackey instead. And you can say, well, Lecker-Mackey has a great shot, but they don't have that same level of familiarity and chemistry where it's going to take Lecker-Mackey a lot of time to learn JT's tendencies.
And also the NHL. Like, Lecker-Mackey's got to learn how much time and space he has in the NHL. All those things that Brock now has so many games of experience with, Lecker-Mackey's just getting that experience right now.
The other point that DeBrusk brought up, and this is for a really interesting perspective. Again, this conversation was earlier this month. DeBrusk told me, he's like, it took me like 4 or 5 games just to figure out that JT in the offensive zone, especially if entries, likes to rim the puck around the wall, the opposite wing, and like, oh, as the winger, like I got to be in that spot to pick that puck up. And that stood out because there was in the first period of shift where Miller was sort of lugging it through, he rimmed it around, and Lecker-Mackey was sort of by the face-off circle instead of along the wall. And when JT rims that puck around, if Boeser's in that spot, he immediately is stationed there, and now you start cycling. Lecker-Mackey just doesn't know that JT loves that rim around the wall, and so Lecker-Mackey's not in that spot, and the Canucks didn't get set up. It was pretty quickly the Preds were able to break out the other way, and it's like that's an example of the small reads and subtleties that that add up and make a profound difference in how a line is able to control play, and why it takes guys time to build chemistry, and why, I mean, think about the chemistry you and I have as co-hosts, for example. We're just so familiar now. Imagine you bring in somebody random that you've like never done a show with, and you're like doing your like, you're taking your victory laps, you're doing your vibe stakes. The other person's gonna be like, "What the hell's going on? I have no idea what to do or how to react." The product suffers, and that's kind of what it's like with J for JT without Bester right now.
That's why we say thank God that you were the replacement for Chris instead of someone else, someone random. But yeah, we all miss Brock Boeser. The Canucks miss Brock Boeser, but nobody misses Brock Boeser more than JT Miller.